Today, Senator Mike Lee from Utah joins us in the Heritage Studio. Sir, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
You've been very, very outspoken about gun control, as has Heritage. The Manchin Toomey bill, you've been very outspoken about, saying specifically that it has loopholes. It actually does more to punish law-abiding Americans than it does to protect them. What's the remedy here? How do we look at gun control legislation and say this is really what we should be focusing on while protecting Second Amendment rights?
Well, first of all, ever since the tragedy at Newtown, I think all of us, not just in Congress, but all of us throughout the country, have been trying to figure out ways to prevent something like this from happening again.
Right.
We vote on actual bills. We don't vote on abstract ideas. It'd be nice if we could just vote on something and say we don't ever want this to happen, and then that would be the case. But we have to vote on actual legislative proposals. The proposals that have come forward so far overwhelmingly have done a lot as far as threatening to undermine the rights of law-abiding citizens while doing little or nothing to prevent the kind of violent crime that we saw at Newtown. And so, I'm always willing to look at other legislative proposals, but Toomey Manchin is an example of a legislative proposal brought forward with good intentions. But as I looked at it, read through the 50-page bill, what I could see was something that was too vague for law-abiding Americans to be able to look at and discern whether or not they were complying with the law. But it was also too broad for us to be able to expect that it would actually restrict the behavior of criminals. And so I couldn't support it at the end of the day.
Another hot topic, immigration. Heritage has joined your efforts in being really outspoken about immigration. Jim DeMint just came out with a statement specifically addressing amnesty, saying, this is really going to be a financial burden for taxpayers, other law-abiding citizens. What do you think that we should be focusing on in terms of immigration reform?
What we need to focus on there is step-by-step reform. We need to start in the areas where there is the most broad-based bipartisan consensus. There is broad-based bipartisan consensus for border security enhancement, for the modernization of our visa structure, for the completion of a long overdue entry-exit system. Just to name three of them. I think we could get bills passed on all three of those items and do it relatively quickly by early or midsummer. The problem is that when you tie those issues up and hold them hostage, saying we're not going to pass any of those unless we also simultaneously pass something that aims to legalize 11 million people, all in one fell swoop, treating them as if they're a monolithic group that all came here for similar reasons, you run into some problems, both as far as gaining the necessary political consensus to pass it, but also in terms of its implementation and enforcement. You
and I had just been talking about internet sales tax, and not an issue that's getting a lot of buzz right now since there are other things going on in the news, but it seems like what buzz it is getting in the media is not really focusing on how consumers are going to be affected by internet sales tax legislation. What should we know?
Well, what we should know is that this is a bill that deals with the ability of a state or a political subdivision of a state to collect sales tax from somebody outside the state who is selling a product that ultimately is sent into that state. And people ought to be concerned about this because they ought to know all the ramifications that this could have as far as small businesses and as far as consumers and how it might affect their tax bill. But there are also some fundamental fairness and due process questions related to whether or not it's okay to allow one state to regulate a retailer operating in another state, even though that retailer has no connection to the taxing jurisdiction at all.
So you just joined us for an event called What Conservatives Are For, that basically notes that we really need to coalesce around one conservative vision to coalesce around one conservative government agenda. Is it about a vision or is it about conservative messaging?
It's really about both. It's our vision that informs our message and motivates that message. What I was talking about today is a vision for America that entails a free and prosperous people who will be better off as a result of a robust voluntary civil society operating within a free market economy. When that happens, we're free as individuals to thrive. And government can't really create that set of circumstances, but government can thwart it. Government can kill it. And so we've got to make sure that government doesn't continue to grow and expand at the expense of our own prosperity.